What's up, you guys? This is Rob from Gay Guy Plays, and today on the Daily Grind, we're gonna have a little bit of a chat about Melee 3.0, unscripted, uncensored, and uncaffeinated. Unfortunately, I fell asleep a little too early last night, and then I woke up really early this morning, and then I figured instead of going back to bed, I might as well have a little bit of a chat with you guys about my personal take on everything that is going down with Melee 3.0. So, if I'm gonna be honest with you, I think the phrasing that I'm going to put for this is, I'm sad, but I'm also cautiously optimistic for what's to come. Now, for those of you guys who have absolutely no clue, kind of like what the basic breakdown, the TLDR, from what I interpreted from the dev stream, and I just rewatched it again to make sure that everything that I'm thinking kind of aligns with what they've publicly posted, is that, number one, if you have a standing still combo, aka you're not doing any other button inputs other than melee attack, that's one combo. Moving forward while doing that melee attack is going to give you another combo. And then you also have coming in from a block, so if you're blocking and you hit the attack button, you'll actually go into a gap closer, which can then chain into one of the combos. Then of course, we've got the ability to mix in heavy attacks. So far we've only seen, at least what they were saying, what we saw on the screen was there's one animation for heavy attacks. They did say that they were going to try to look into chaining in different animations depending on like how you're moving. So that's a thing. And then of course there is air melee, which I think that I'm the most excited about from everything that we've seen so far. So basically what it breaks down to is two different combos, gap closer, and then a heavy attack. And that's really kind of like the basis of what they've got going. And of course, you know, the air combos that happen in the air, or the ground slams and the charge attacks that happen from air. So those are kind of like the additional side things. Now, when I say I'm sad, the sad part comes from the fact that I'm really sad to see some combos go. I don't know about you guys, but whenever they released the new stance, I loved seeing stances that have like 3 or 4 different main combos, because you get to see all of these cool animations. And one of the goals that they had for Melee 3.0, at least to my current understanding, is they wanted to make all of the combos basically the same. So basically one similar button input, so that when you go into different melee weapons, you just use that same input over and over and over again, so that it doesn't feel like a rough transition between different types of weapons. And I completely get that. Warframe is a very lush game. There's a lot of things that you have to learn about. I mean, if you're a new player, you have to worry about, okay, what is the syndicate system? What is focus? Exactly how do I get a Kavad or a Kubro? Like, your brain is so filled with all of this shit, right? That the last thing that you want to do is learn, like, melee inputs for a specific weapon stance. However, on the other end of the spectrum, at least from my personal experience, for someone who's been with the game for a long period of time, I've had a chance to learn all of that, right? I've got a chance to sit down and find my favorite combos from my favorite weapons. Like, there's a Nikana stance that I absolutely love, which is the Tranquil Cleave one, where you like go in and you like stab an enemy a bunch of times, and then you like dash out with the final finisher. You dash out, and the last slash is like something that opens enemies up to melee finishers, and you stab them up in the air, and I'm like, yeah, that is so freaking cool. Like, I love that kind of stuff. And for me, that made the melee system really unique. It's like each stance had its own characteristic, and personally, you know, one of the things that they had talked about was melee gymnastics, like controller gymnastics, to see like how difficult it was. And I get that. For some, there are definitely some weird movesets where you're like moving backwards, but you're attacking forwards in order to get your combo. That was just a weird moment. And oh my god, can we talk about, what is it? It was like one of the new bug ones for, I think it was dual swords, where you had to do a left. It was like melee and left in order to go ahead and get your combo to go off. I was like, what is that? So there are definitely some weird ones there, but the pause and hold ones I never really found too much of an issue with. I always felt like that still fit the flow of combat, because it fit the pauses in the melee strikes. So me personally, I was like, okay, so we're losing a little bit of the character from the stances in order to get like a more simplified, I'm just gonna say a more dumbed down version of it. I'm not saying that it's not going to be enjoyable, though. That's definitely one of the things that I want to clarify, because, you know, it'll be easier for players to get into Melee. My only thing is, like, there are iconic stances that I'm just kind of like, oh, like, please don't let that go away. So it's kind of like, I hope you pick the moveset that I like the best. There's a really, really great one on Vulpine Mask where you do, like, this weird flourish in the air. Well, it's not really a big, weird, crazy flourish, but there's this really cool flourish, and you get so many hits off on that one, and I'm like, ooh, I love that. And the thing about it is, as somebody who's played the game for a long period of time, you learn all of these things. And you feel cool because you've learned all of these things. You're like, the new kids, they're just spamming E, or they're, you know, doing slide attacks like, you know, fools. But you actually, as somebody who took the time out to learn these systems and really enjoy these systems, you have certain combo stances that you're attached to. Like there is one that I love. I believe it's in, oh my god, I forget that you guys know I'm really, really bad at names. But it's the dual sword ones, and it's the one that says Viper. I think it's like a Viper, it's a snake one. It's not the swirling tiger, but whatever the other one is. And there's this weird kind of like, almost like air juggle combo. It was really, really good, and I loved that one. And it's kind of like learning all of these things, and learning the moves is kind of like, it made me feel, you know, it's kind of like you have your own signature. And because of the fact that you took the time out to learn it, and it's different for each weapon, knowing the fact that you learned these signatures, it's kind of like, that's mine. And now with the new Melee system where it's like, alright, you have your standstill combo, you have your moving forward combo, and then you have gap closers, and then the aerial stuff, right? Like, I'm like, oh. So, like, it's just gonna be the same combo throughout the entire thing. Fantastic. So that's the part that has got me sad. However, like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic that the rest of the system will make it very, very interesting. And this is where I think that people get a little bit worried when they're talking about the different mods that they've got going on. Of course, they did not touch on that in the dev stream, and I think that was very smart. I think it's better to have it in a dev workshop where literally it's just a list of like all the shit that's changing and all of the different things that are happening. Because that way, you know, they can't misspeak on stream, and they can't, like, you know, accidentally say something that they didn't mean to say, so that they get the information out to us as transparently as possible. So I was very happy that they saved that for a dev workshop, and I can't wait for that dev workshop, because one of the things that people had been chatting about was the fact that they were worried that Melee would lose its scalability. Now, there is, and I don't know if it was clever wording on their part or them being very, very cautious, but they did say specifically on the stream, this is something that I noted, which was like, you will, what do you call this, our changes to the Melee mods, you will be able to scale up to a point. And I was like, did you say like up to a point? Like, you didn't say just scale endlessly, you said scale up to a point. So what do you mean by scale up to a point, you know? But then in all realism, like when it comes down to like the Melee combo counter, it really got difficult at like 3.5 to 4. Like, that was one of those ones where you had to make sure to keep your combo counter up. You had to be running some Naramon tricks in there, too, to make sure to keep your combo counter really, really high. Or you had to have, what do you call this? It's the slash relentless combo, something like that. It was like that, where it added extra, combo things for every slash proc that you had going on. So like that, you know, was the only way that you would really keep up to a 4. But so maybe that's what they meant by, you know, it's gonna, you know, allow you to scale up to a point. Because after that, you know, it's really rough to get into the even higher levels of Melee combo counter. Unless you're doing an extended run. Then, you know, have at it, have fun. But yeah, So that I can definitely see. I'm actually kind of excited. That's the part I didn't know that freaks the people the most out. Is like, oh, these combo systems. I think that's going to be the most interesting part of it all, because they did say that they were going to have systems that would allow you to keep a certain amount of your combo counter while you were doing, you know, charge attacks. Because as you guys know, charge attacks are basically going to burn through the melee combo meter. And so a part of me is like, okay, this is going to be really interesting. I can't wait to see how all of these mods affect it. There was even somebody who was saying auto parry. Like, he was like, oh, is this going to affect the auto parry mod? I was like, oh, that's really smart. Like, because then you can build up your combo counter with your auto parries. I was like, it's interesting. This is going to mix up the meta just a little bit, and I can't wait to see how it mixes up the meta. So that's you know, that's the part that I know everybody's dreading. They're like, what about my maiming strike? What about body count and blood rush? I always say body count and blood rush, even though it really should be drifting contact and blood rush. But you know, it's everybody's pointing out these specific mods, and I'm like, I want to see what they end up doing with it, because you know, they might still be able to stay the same. Like, you might not get like a melee you like from like blood rush, you know, you get bonus crit chance with the higher the combo counter, so maybe you don't want to spend all of that combo counter on charge attack, right? So there might be weird trade-offs like that, but we'll just have to see how it kind of goes. I was actually looking into it and thinking about, oh, well, we do have all of these channeling mods. Like, there's channeling efficiency, so what if there's like a channeling mod that increases your charge attack's damage, but because it has the efficiency part in there, it doesn't burn through all of your combo meter. So that's definitely a thing that I'm curious to see, and that's the part that I'm the most excited about. Actually, I lied. The thing that I'm most excited about, and you probably heard it during my dev stream breakdown, was literally being able to do air combos. The air combo thing got me because I hate drones. I hate drones, and whenever I do melee, I get really frustrated when I don't have like a primed reach on to deal with those drones. I'm like, ooh, but you gon' die now. You gon' die now, bitch. And I'm so excited about that. That is definitely something that I am looking forward to. The other thing that I'm really liking is they have changed up the visual effects of the melee weapons. Like, I'm loving the new visual effects that they've got going on, and they did say that it was only at half polished so far. So I'm really curious to see what it's gonna look like finished, because I mean, it looks really good. So, well, I mean, you gonna make it look even better? I'm like, I'm alright about that. I'm excited. The other thing that I'm kind of hoping, and I guess this is kind of like where I'm going with this, is like, I'm hoping that each of the stances still get to keep like a lot of their spirit, because one of the things that they showed with the gap closer was the two different dagger stances. So one of them had like a little dash forward, and then another one had like a somersault forward with like a double slash. I was like, that is super duper dope. Like, that's really flavorful, and that's the thing that I like when it comes to melee combos, is for each of them to really have their own spirit and to be unique and to be different, so that you get your own signature. Of course, you know, we lose out on having like 5 different combos on one combo card, which hurts my soul. But hopefully it won't just be 1 and 2 combos. Maybe they'll have like a combo that, you know, if you're, I don't know if you're holding, I don't know what they're gonna do with Melee 3.0. To be completely honest with you, I'm just kind of like waiting with bated breath to see what comes next. So the only thing that I can say is, DE, if our combos are gonna get dumbed down, I really wanted to make sure that we have the damage numbers right for the melee weapons. Like, hopefully you got that all situated, and the ranges. Those are the 2 big things that, like, listen, if you're taking away, and I say taking away because, you know, like, there are certain stance cards that don't have more than 2 combos, and there's certain stance cards where people don't necessarily use all of the combos on that stance card. So I get that you're not necessarily taking it away if it's not really being used in the first place. But, you know, if you're shifting us away from that, let's just make sure that the damage on these weapons make up for it, and the range makes up for it. And one of the things that I also kind of wanted to end this with was the thing that they were talking about, and I think a lot of people don't get why all of this change is happening all of a sudden, It's because at the very beginning, one of the things they said that is they didn't want to just change the damage numbers. They wanted to address all of the issues with Melee. And this is something that I almost wanted to say in a different video, like in a standalone video talking about why DE doesn't listen to you. But legitimately, what it kind of boils down to is just because you don't have an issue with it doesn't mean that other players don't have an issue with it. And DE's only gonna make moves on things that enough people have an issue with. And just because you're a part of a very loud group of people doesn't mean that you're the majority. So here I am, you know, talking about, I love melee combos. Melee combos are the best, but they're so great. And I have a platform to like share that on. Just because I'm being loud on this platform doesn't mean that I'm necessarily the majority. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, because I've learned all the block combos and all of the pause combos, that everybody else has that same experience. So very clearly, a lot of people had the opposite experience of what I had, and so DE wanted to make moves to improve that in the new melee system. So that's one of the things that you guys got to keep in mind, that just because I didn't have an issue with it, just because you didn't have an issue with it, doesn't mean that other people didn't have an issue with it. And as sad as it feels for something to feel like it's been taken away, because again, I haven't gotten my hands on Melee 3.0, I haven't been able to play it, so I can't really like, you know, stand up and say, oh, it's a fantastic, you know, but I also can't sit here and say, oh, it's terrible, you're killing me, DE. Like, is Melee 3.0 going to ruin the game? Not for me. I have a lot of things that I love in Warframe, and Melee 3.0 is just another thing that I'm going to get my hands on, go in depth with, flourish with, and, you know, enjoy while I've got it. Wow, Rob really does need caffeine. So that about does it for my own personal feelings from it. Again, and this kind of ties into, if you haven't watched my previous video, Outrage Culture in Warframe, Melee 3.0, Chroma Prime, Equinox Prime, all of that kind of stuff. I would highly suggest that you watch that, because this is my honest, genuine reaction. So people often say, Rob, how are you positive about everything? How are you hyping everything? I was like, I'm not. I have like a pretty solid baseline. There are some really cool things that I do get excited about, like air melee. But there are also things that I'm not super necessarily always jazzed about. But just know that this is how I handle it emotionally. I don't freak out on forums, I don't go to Reddit and I don't trash things, I don't like, you know, this is my baseline, you guys. So for everybody out there saying, well, you're not passionate, no, I am passionate. I feel very deeply about being afraid that I'm gonna lose certain combos that I absolutely love, that I've invested time in getting to know, but at the same time, to me, I realize that I can't like be so crazy invested in the fact that it's just melee combos in a video game. Like, you guys, chill the fuck out. You know, chill out, eat a Snickers, get your shit right. And I think that that's the way that I'm gonna end it here today. Leave your feelings down in the comments below, and also I'm gonna leave this with you. Gauge your feelings. Like, really get into your feelings. Figure out what it is that's like maybe triggering you. Figure out what it is, why maybe you're just like apathetic about it. You're like, I don't really care, this isn't really an issue. But really get in them, analyze what you're feeling, and like parse it out. You're like, am I overreacting? Am I underreacting? Like, what's happening to my body? Because I think that we need to really, as a community, make a mental shift to check ourselves, to make sure that the way that we're handling ourselves is in a healthy way, rather than in a I'm Reddit way. Alright, so that's my time, and as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.